Groundation is a session typical in the Rastafarian belief system, where people gather and discuss ideas, and a lot of the time they partake in cannabis and they listen to music and play drums, and the people have a conversation about what's going on in the world. And that's the theme of this session. So hop in, join, have conversation. But in the meanwhile, I'm also going to be listening to this album, which is Level Find a Way. I'm going to do a review on it pretty soon, but I figure I might as well sit back and listen live. I'm also testing copyright hits on things to see what sets it off. Because, I like to use clips and I don't want to have to waste time. But this is a beautiful red album. I forgot about this. So this is I'm sure there'll be more. It's Mike Love's second album. This is 221 of 1000. Limited run is what I'm saying. I like colors. And I listen to a lot of different types of music, but reggae is always in the background. Obviously I'm pretty hooked on the Tyler the Creator stuff, but I listen to all kinds of things. I talk about a lot of little figures. I'm also working on my next longer video I'm hoping to do about Louis Armstrong. He was born in the 1900s. That's crazy to think about. He liked to say he was born on July 4th, 1900, specifically. So he would be 120 years old if he was alive today. Definitely crazy for me to think about. Anyway. Another thing I've been thinking about a lot is just moving with purpose. So often I feel like some of my actions have just been in a vague desire or train of thought about what I should be doing. But I find if we have a point and a purpose and we're actually moving towards something, you get a lot better results. So, thus we're here. Hello! Yes, thus we're here. And this applies to multiple things. So a lot of these videos I've been making, they're trying to go into a point. And ultimately that point is I want to learn about these musicians. So that doesn't work quite as well as having a purpose and wanting to learn about them. If I say somebody's a really cool person, what's the point of that? If you're just listing off traits? Well, no. As I was saying, if we're just listing off traits and going off of desires and things, it doesn't end up as a good enough result. I need to get eventually I need to work on moderators. No. As I was saying. No. So, thought. Where was I going in this direction? Purpose, reason, direction, the reason that you're moving towards a goal. It has a lot to do with not just wanting to reach it, but your plans to get there. And in that term, it's all about moving with intent. So, in my mind, I want to talk about Louis Armstrong once again. I don't know a lot about him. I know he's an awesome trumpet player. I like trumpet. I can't play trumpet worth a damn. But I'm trying, and I've been trying. As I was going on. I know he's from New Orleans. I think that's an interesting fact. I've never been to Louisiana in general, but I want to go. Hmm. I also need to go figure out more about this live system. I'm working on it currently. But I must say, it's an interesting idea. How's everything sound? Hearing? Hearing things? Good. At least I hope so. Well, that's interesting. Such a fun occurrence. Is it because of the rainbow? So that picture I have for the thumbnail is actually from outside. You know, rain breeds rainbows occasionally. Let me see. Move. Remove. Eventually, as I work on this, I need to work on getting an actual moderator. Sure, that works. That'll be it. Okay, perfect. I like that better. So if you're joining now, I'm in the middle of or what I was starting as a groundation, which is essentially a Rastafarian belief that of community and talking about ideas and different things that are currently. I am not painting. I don't have a paint. Yes. Do you paint? Back onto what I was doing. I'm currently listening to music that eventually I'll be reviewing and typing out my next video idea, which was going to be about Louis Armstrong. I do a lot of older musician-like ideas. Once again, he would be 124-ish this year. And just reading, like, about him as a figure is such an interesting thing. So, you know, he got big and bigger and bigger, basically by being in competition as a trumpet player. And this is a time I love to talk about the older musicians because, like, imagine if you didn't have so many distractions all the time. Imagine if you didn't have a million different things you could do, and you could only do one thing. And musicians like Louis Armstrong are in that category. They spent all of their time working on their craft, and that's why he's an interesting figure to me, at least. As somebody who would like to play trumpet, but I'm working on it. So, grew up, raised by grandma. Go eat, enjoy. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate it. What's food? I wasn't expecting to be so distracted so easily. Yes, I appreciate it. Also talking about different theories and ideas, so if y'all just have anything you want to talk about, feel free to talk about it. Otherwise, the direction my mind's going is continuing on where I was reading. Once again, Louis Armstrong. Y'all ever hear the song Russian Lullaby? It's come up a couple times for me. Riverboat education. Chicago. Imitation King Oliver. Yes. Maybe I should move this so I can see it a little better while I do this. Yeah, and that still works. That sounds pretty crazy. What do y'all know about trumpet playing? Any of you play that? No? Yes? No? Maybe? I try it. It's the most difficult thing I've tried. Like, guitar is much easier than trumpet. This is just gonna be me making fish sounds for the next 20 minutes. No. I like this song a lot. There's definitely a sudden jump in sound for this. I don't know if that was my speakers or the record itself. That's an interesting topic to me. You ever listen to a record and you can, or like some piece of music, and you could definitely tell when the sound engineer just kind of bumped up the volume? I can. A couple of Carlos Santana records I can think of like that. I haven't done any Carlos Santana reviews. That's something I'm thinking about. Maybe I'll put that on next. Okay. What was I doing? Reading. No, that's the speakers. The speakers are messing up. That's a little better. And then I don't really know how this is going to go about. Or specifically, the area of time from here into here that I'm really trying to write about. We'll find out. I think I need to read through this entire thing and reconsider how I'm writing this, because there's just so much information. And I know not everybody wants to know all the boring information. Hello! I know not everybody wants to know all the boring information, so a lot of the time when I'm trying to create something, it's reading through anything that I feel like might be important and trying to summarize it. And because of that, I have a pretty good, ability to bring things into a more digestible level. But what that does is involve, yes, probably, I'm here, and I exist. And as I was thinking, or I was thinking before I let my mind wander too much, which happens quite a bit. Condensing information, trying to see what I can pool, what's actually worth talking about, and what could be skimmed over. Recordings, several hours on a train. Richmond, Indiana. Is Richmond, Indiana a big city in Indiana? No, yes, I've never heard of it. I'm not going to read about it more right now, but it's interesting. A funnel connected directly to the needle, marking the groove in their master recording. Wow. Recording system, better dynamic range. Can you imagine playing so loud you're not allowed to stand next to somebody? You gotta stand at least 15 feet away. Oh. It's interesting. Church contests to broaden his skill and dress more stylishly to offset his girth. Undermine Armstrong's relationship. Hello, baby.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think you're fine to hang out as long as you're not in frame. But there's not a lot of frame anyway, so I don't think we have to worry about that as much. Okay. Very, very helpful. Hmm. Let's see. Trumpets blending better with the other in this section. Okay. During this period. Armstrong's emotional style. Okay. I wonder if this is setting it off. Okay. But perhaps a bit longer. Controlled style. Wanted to expand his career. I wonder if I could find a photo of that anywhere. World's greatest trumpet player. For a time, he was a member. Okay. Hello there. I enjoy your dancing. I can see it from over here. Nobody else can see it though, so it might as well be me talking to an imaginary person. Yes.
Are you still live?
Yeah, still.
Cool.
I think I should stop.
No.
I still have like a lot of record to go.
How many folks?
I don't know, but I got a lot of comments for a while.
Good.
Not all of them were great.
Really?
I'll tell you later. Yes, really.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it's not necessarily insulting, but
My condolences.
condolences. Isn't that a lot heavier term? Like, if you give somebody your condolences, isn't it supposed to be something that's more like...
Detrimental?
Yes, that's a good word. Detrimental. True. True conversation. Yeah. I like that there's an actual trumpets in the recording. Okay, refocus. Style. Boop. I always appreciate scat singing. Just as an aside, as I read on, I wonder how much can be recognized from a scat sing. Like if you scat something the exact same way, you know, bibbidi-bop-bop-bop-bop, are you gonna get that song flagged at some point? Anyway, I think that's aside. Let's see. No, was that why? It's possible. Okay. Yeah. Do. Let It Rain? Yep. This is a cool tune. Bum ba dum ba dum bum. My mom's recording. Okay. Touched all known writers. Okay. Continued his focus on his vocal career, his popularity brought together many blacks and white audiences. Emerging as a vocalist, Armstrong returned to New York in 1929 when he played in pit orchestras for the musical Hot Chocolates, an all-black revenue written by Andy Reddiff and pianist Fats Waller. Armstrong made a cameo as a vocalist, regularly stealing the show with his rendition of Ain't Misbehaving. Started to work at Connie's Inn in Harlem, chief rival to the Cotton Club, a venue for elaborately staged floor shows, and at a front of gangster Dutch Schultz. Armstrong had considerable success with vocals recordings, including versions of songs composed by his friendly Hoagie Carmichael. His 1930s recording took full advantage of the RCA ribbon microphone introduced in 1931. Vocals and became an interesting part of the crooning sound of artists like Bing Crosby. Armstrong's interpretation of Carmichael's Stardust became one of the most successful versions of this song ever recorded, showing Armstrong's unique vocal sound and style and his innovative approach to singing songs that were already standards. Armstrong's radical reworking of Sidney Aldrin's and Carmichael's Lazy River, recorded in 1931, encapsulated his groundbreaking approach to melody and phrasing. The song begins with a brief trumpet solo, then the main melody is introduced by sobbing horns, memorable punctuated by Armstrong's growing interjections at the end of each bar. Yeah, sure, way down, in the first verse. Armstrong ignores the note melody and sings as if he's playing a trumpet solo. With his trumpet playing, Armstrong's vocal innovation served as the foundation for jazz vocal interpretation. The uniquely gravelly coloration of his voice became an archetype that was endlessly imitated. Armstrong's scat singing was enriched by his matchless experience as a trumpet soloist, a resonant velvety low register tone, and a bubbling cadences on sides such as Lazy River. Greatly influenced younger white singers such as Bing Crosby. So I'm reading a lot of links between Louis Armstrong being a precursor to Bing Crosby, and as we approach Christmas, I'm sure everybody knows who Bing Crosby is, right? That real deep, oh, I'm dreaming. I actually like Christmas music, as a quick aside. Anyway, working during hard times. The Great Depression of the early 1930s was especially hard on the jazz scene. That's something I never even considered, but we are kind of in a modern Great Depression of music in a lot of ways. Like the span between COVID and these 4 years has been pretty hard as like a gigging musician. And if you ever know somebody who was a gigging musician at that time, sometimes you could get gigs, but a lot of the time it wasn't. I was in a pop duo for a little while, and we got a lot of gigs then, and it just did not take off. Well, we were doing pretty well for a while, but then, COVID, and bop, nothing. Went from making a bit of money to making no money. Anyway, the Great Depression in the early 1930s was especially hard on the jazz scene. After a long downward spiral, the Cotton Club closed in 1936 and many musicians stopped playing altogether as club dates evaporated. The Fletcher Hudson's band broke up, King Oliver made a few records but struggled, Sidney Bechet became a tailor. What if a famous musician just suddenly began working and just exclusively making pants or clothes? I mean, I guess we have a couple musicians in that fashion industry sphere, But what if like they just completely stopped doing music and just started going into fashion? Apparently that's been happening since the 1930s. It's funny. It's funny to me. Moving to Paris, yeah, you go into becoming a fashion director and then you move to Paris. And, I could think of a few modern acts that did that, but Sidney Beckett apparently was one of the first people who did that. Kid Ory returned to New Orleans and raised chickens. Huh. Just, I don't know how much you hear this, but I really like this song off of this album. This is Love Will Find a Way by Mike Love. Yeah. Everywhere you go. As I was going on, Armstrong moved to Los Angeles in the 1930s to seek new opportunities. So in the 1930s, he moved from New York during the Great Depression to LA during the Great Depression. Wasn't California like the main place people wanted to go in the Great Depression? This is going to get off topic for a second, but I miss California. I'm in Vermont. I don't like Vermont that much. The band drew the Hollywood crowd, which could still afford a lavish night style. Okay, that makes sense. So the rich in LA were able to still support jazz music in that time. You know, and the rich were all in LA, I guess. Interesting. Not necessarily all of LA, but there's definitely that Hollywood scene. That's been around. Afford a lavish night style, while radio broadcasts from the club connected with younger audiences at home. Okay. Bing Crosby and many other celebrities were regulars at the club. In 1931, appears in his first movie, also convicted of marijuana possession. Okay. That's definitely a theme for musicians I will look up to a lot of the time. A lot of them get arrested for something. Armstrong returned to Chicago in the late 1931 and played in bands more in the Guy Lombardo vein, and he recorded more standards. When the mob insisted that he get out of town, Armstrong visited New Orleans. Ha! Had a hero's welcome and saw old friends. Sponsored a local baseball team called Armstrong's Secret Nine and had a cigar named after him. It's interesting. I didn't know Louis Armstrong had a baseball team for a little while, and he had a cigar named after him. Those are fun facts. Armstrong was on the road again soon after a tour across the country shadowed by the mob. He fled to Europe. I'm reading a lot about Louis Armstrong being in trouble with the mob, from what I've been seeing. To return to the United States, Armstrong undertook several exhausting tours. His agent, Johnny Collins' erratic behavior and spending ways left Armstrong short of cash. So another case of like musicians being taken advantage of from their agents. That's been going on since the 1930s. Good to know. As his new manager, a tour mob-connected wheeler dealer who began straightening out his legal mess, mob troubles, and debts. You know, as I read about these older musicians, I'm like, almost every other line is mob. There was the mob. The mob was helping. The mob was chasing. The mob said don't play in the city anymore. So he moved to a new city. No, what the... this is actually pretty interesting. I'll summarize as I go on. As a result, Armstrong branched out, developing his vocal skills and making his first theatrical appearance. Movies again. Yeah. Pennies in Heaven. Okay. With the All-Stars. After spending many years on the road, Armstrong settled permanently in Queens, New York in 1943 with his fourth wife, Lucille. Fourth wife. Great. Although subject to Tin Pan Alley and the gangster music business as well as his anti-prejudice, Armstrong continued to develop his playing. Booking for big bands tapered off during the 1940s due to changes in public tasting. Ballrooms closed, and competition from other types of music, especially pop vocals, became more popular than big band music. Under such circumstances, it became impossible to finance a 16-piece touring band. That's true. Like, if you're playing in a band that's like a really big band, you have to be willing to spend money to get all of that band there. Which is another reason why a lot of the modern music scene is so directed in a different way. So how to what? hugely successful small jazz group concert at New York Town Hall, May 17th, 1947, featuring him with trombonist Jack Teagard. Armstrong and Teagard performed a duet. Okay, so I am reading a lot of mob interaction. Okay. And I feel like this should be emboldened. This should be bold. Smaller group, all stars. So even in the 1940s, okay. Did I just read all this and completely space? Yeah. Bookings for big bands tapered off during the 1940s due to changes in public tastes, ballrooms, competition, pop vocals, more popular. So, apparently in the 1940s is when we started to get more pop vocal competitions. So instead of like it's been the breaking of the big band. It's a good way to put it. Which is another title or a whole other concept that I would like to look into more, but we'll get to it. Okay. Revival of interest, duets, Armstrong. Revival of interest in the 1940s in traditional jazz of the 20s made Armstrong to consider the possibility of a small group. Guest artists with Lionel Hampton's band and Flamed Second Cavalcade of Jazz concert, Weekly Field in Los Angeles, produced by Leon Heffling Sr. on October 12, 1946. Armstrong also led a highly successful small group jazz concert in New York Town Hall on May 17, 1947, featuring him with trombonist singer Jack Teagarden. During the concert, Armstrong and Teagarden performed a duet on Hoagley Carmichael's Rocking Chair. They then recorded for Oka Records. Armstrong's manager, Joe Glasser, changed to Armstrong's big band on August 13, 1947 into a six-piece traditional jazz group featuring Armstrong, Teagarden, Earl Higgs, and other top swing and Dixieland musicians, most of whom were previous leaders of big bands. The new group was announced at the opening of Billboard's Club. Okay. All Stars, February 28th. Just long. Okay, this is one specific song. Armstrong was the first jazz musician to appear on the cover of Times magazine on February 21st, 1949. How many musicians have been on like the cover of Times magazine? That's an interesting question. I'm gonna Google that real quick. Apparently, Louis Armstrong was the first in the 49s. Anybody know off the top of your heads? Louis Armstrong, greatest discography. Yep. February 21st, 1949, he was the first jazz musician, which leads me to believe that maybe there's been others. Okay, Michael Jackson, that makes sense. Dixie Chicks, Kanye, Ricky Martin, really? I wasn't. Oh, Lauren Hill. I don't know who this is off the top of my head. Jewel. Jewel was on Time magazine. Pearl Jam was on Time magazine. Garth Brooks. Madonna. Michael Jackson. David Bowie. Wow, he looks like Fred in this picture. The Who. Lionel, Paul McCartney. So apparently there have been a lot of musicians on the cover of Time magazine. Elton John, Cher, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, The Band, Aretha Franklin, The Beatles, Joan Baez, Frank Sinatra, Rosemary Clooney. Hey, there's Louis Armstrong. Bing Crosby. Oh, so it seems like Bing Crosby was the first musician to be on the cover of Time magazine, with Louis Armstrong being the second. That's interesting. Let me, I'm going to write that down. And that's another interesting topic in my mind, at least. When is it that the vocalist became the main, like, focus of the music rather than the instrumentalist? And when did this conversation start to become the norm? Because the breaking of big bands in the 1940s, it sounds like that was largely in part due to the more popularity of the singer, of the singer-songwriter, of the vocal competition. So the vocal competition kind of broke apart the big band demand. And I would guess it would have something to do with the development of microphones, if we're being honest. Because before, if you wanted to listen to music, it had to be like all acoustic, all loud, all big band, lots of horns. And then once we started developing this technology to make things louder, that naturally had to go away, making it cheaper and cheaper to make music, cheaper and cheaper to make big music. Nowadays, you could hire a DJ instead of having to hire 17 trumpet players or whatever you want to do in the back. Anyway, now I'm getting a little bit off of my previous train of thought again, but that's interesting. I'll talk about that a little more later. So, first jazz musician to appear on the cover of the 30s. Oh, this is an interesting thing. The Jazz Ambassador. So apparently, jazz is an American commodity. It's something that came specifically from here and started to go out to other places. So, by the 1950s, Armstrong was a widely beloved American icon and cultural ambassador who commanded an international fan base. Yeah, that makes sense. However, a growing generational gap became apparent between him and young jazz musicians who emerged in like Charles Parker, Miles Davis, and Sonny Rollins. Post-war generation regarded their music as abstract art and considered Armstrong's half musician and half stage entertainer. Huh. Oh, that's kind of heavy. He seemed a link to minstrels that they were ashamed of. Armstrong called bebop. Okay. While touring Australia in 1954, if he could play bebop, just play music, guys. Huh. Interesting. Instruments under their arms. After finishing his contract with Decca Records, Armstrong went freelance and recorded for other labels. He continued to an intense international touring schedule, but suffered a heart attack in 1959 while in Italy and had to rest. There's a lot of health problems for Louis Armstrong. I read something much earlier where he met people at hospitals. Oh, I think it's time to put on the next record or the next side. Okay. No. Very real. Okay. For more than 2 years, about selling Foot in Stadium, recorded his biggest selling record, Hello Dolly. I know that one. Remained top 100 in 22 weeks. Oldest person to accomplish that feat at 62, 9 months and 5 days. Armstrong's hit dislodged the Beatles from #1 position they had occupied for 14 consecutive weeks, with 3 different songs. Okay. To his 60s, even visiting parts of the communist bloc in 1964, Africa, Europe, and Asia under the sponsorship of the United States Department. Great success. Ambassador Satch. Egypt, Gaza, and Nigeria. By 1968, Armstrong was approaching 70 and his health was failing. Heart and kidneys forced him to stop touring, continued to record. Oh, so What a Wonderful World was recorded after Armstrong could no longer, like, play, go out and perform. Died. Oh, 1969. Okay. So I have read a lot about him now. I'm kind of getting a visualization of how I'm going to approach the story, write out the script. But what it comes down to is making a lot of different highlights about what we are focused on, what we are looking at. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. Does it count as me? I don't know. I hear it. I wonder if that's making like an echo. Okay. So, I think I'm going to go back to some work here in another moment. But as I am reading this out, thinking of my thoughts, looking through and figuring out what I want to highlight, there's a couple key moments, and then summarizing it. So obviously, childhood should be a big, like, factor. Childhood, mob interactions, jazz ambassador, noticeable songs. Or nothing at all. I'm pretty sure that's not how you spell ambassador. Da, 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 da. Life is just one big test with many failures and some success. Ha 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 ha. About ideas and different things. Okay. So as I speak out, once again, out towards nothingness or everything, out towards the quietness of the universe, I'm left thinking of a couple things. First, it's the hopeful eventual success of the things I do. As I hope is successful for all of you. Next is the noticeable things. Time magazine. That's something to talk about as well. Just thinking about it. This album is definitely pretty long. Though I definitely like it more than Mike Love's previous album. I'm also unsure about how many musicians have been on the cover of Time magazine. What do you got to do to be on the cover of Time magazine? What is the qualifications? What is the groundation? Yes, but oh well. So if I divide it out into separate thoughts, vocalist, yeah, personal life, music, film, awards, honors, Grammys. Oh, Dolly. Really, that's it? Hall of Fame? Okay. So I'm imagining a lot of these were too old to actually be reviewed. When did the Grammy system get started? How long ago did he pass away? 71? So he died way back. And I'm still, like, looking at this? (1963) was the date of the first Grammy? That's interesting. Or is that specifically the Lifetime Achievement Award for the Grammys? Well, now I'm going to dive into this train of thought a little bit. The Grammy First Awards. Okay, so the Grammys began in 1959. And the first people to win awards, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Kingston Trio. That's interesting. That's actually another idea for a video. I will write that down. But I don't think I want to work on that one as much as some of these other videos. I just think it's an interesting thought. The first Grammy Awards, like, how much, I didn't even know the first Grammys were given out in 1959. I kind of pictured they were always existent. How soft was my Pacific? Maybe this will be a short, if anything else. NARAS? What the heck is NARAS? National Academy of Recording Arts and Science to so many like practices for some reason. But the National Academy of Recording Arts and Science, apparently that's the people who give out Grammys. I was unaware. How much? I know nothing about this organization. Which organization does it go to? Eligible for Grammy, for NARS, recording music industry. Must be released in the United States between October 1st of the previous year and midnight September 30th. Okay, so they start in the Q3, I guess? eligible for a Grammy from NARS. The recording of the music video must be released in the United States between October 1st and September 30th. NARS. So, Academy. Genres. Okay. So did you know rock wasn't categorized until 1980s? And rap wasn't categorized until 1989? Regional roots music. So I guess there used to be a lot more instrumentalists. Or Latin music. Lars, 1979, 1997. Okay. So there's a Latin Grammys essentially, and it's only eligible if it's speaking Spanish or Portuguese. And it's from July 1st to June 30th, so a different period. Oh, I didn't know Stevie Wonder. Chet Atkins. Okay, so Beyonce won the most Grammys. I didn't know Chet Atkins won so many Grammys. Alright. Is it just... Interesting. Yes, indeed. As I say, these nothings into the space. So I was just reading a little bit about Grammys. Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Irving. Okay. I'm having, connection errors.